The current COVID-19 pandemic crisis shook the world from the way as we used to see it. The global infections currently runs to nearly 170 million and the death toll to well over 3.5 million. We were forced to change our lifestyles, been in the survival mode for the last 1.5 years. The worst is that the end of the pandemic is nowhere near in sight. Effects of SARS-CoV-2 in human beings is quite unpredictable, and many of the deaths happen due to the way in which the virus plays with our immune system, sometimes making it into a frenzy and overreaction, creating severe damage to our lungs leading to death. But along with the news of COVID-19, nowadays we frequently hear about black fungus and black fungus disease. A human body which have around 10 raised to 13 cells carry 10 times more cells of bacteria and other microflora along with it. Not to mention the trillions of viruses normally living in our body. So we are literally like a walking zoo. Most of these are beneficial to our body process, like the gut bacteria, which are essential for proper digestion and nutrition. But needless to say, there are many opportunists like the black fungus too living in and on us, which have the potential to cause many diseases. But they do so only when our immune system is down or compromised. As in the case of persons with severe diabetes, people who underwent organ transplant or cancer treatments, people with immuno-compromising diseases like HIV/AIDS, and the COVID patients who had been treated with steroids to prevent lung damage and to save lives. Prolonged use of steroids lowers their immunity, opening the door for these opportunists. Let's understand a bit deeper about black fungus. One of the major members among the black fungus group is Rhizopus, a species which very commonly known to us as the bread mold fungi. These fungi are frequently present in decomposing organic matter such as rotting fruit and vegetables, leaves and animal dung. It is the same fungi which forms the beautiful white cottony puffball over our stale foodstuff. The species like Rhizopus stolonifer and Rhizopus oryzae are also used in industries and in food and pharmaceuticals. But it reforms as a dangerous villain in the lethal black fungus disease or Mucormycosis, which is killing many now in India. Then, how such seemingly harmless creatures become villainous? Let's look into those factors required by these fungi to grow in our body. They should scavenge sufficient amount of iron from the host for growth. They must evade or defend the immune cells such as macrophages and neutrophils, the cells which will eat all the invaders. Get access to the blood vessels so that they can spread the infection throughout, a process called dissemination. But what happens if these fungal spores are trying to invade a normal, healthy human being? The spores enter the respiratory system by inhalation, get deposited in the mucous membrane, and get into the dermal layer. But once they enter the tissue, the spores and the young mycelia, which is the fiber-like growth from the fungal spores, are eaten and destroyed by the circulating neutrophils and tissue macrophages. Endothelial cells, the neatly arranged cells of blood vessels, create an impenetrable barrier for the mycelia and prevent them from getting into the bloodstream. The normal alkaline nature of our blood packages all the iron in it around special iron binding proteins, so no free iron would be available for the fungal growth. When the fungus enters into a person with severe diabetes, or if the person is immunocompromised, this normal defense mechanism will not work properly, resulting in deadly consequences. Conditions like decay or diabetic ketoacidosis rises the level of keto acids in the blood, making it slightly acidic. This frees the iron from the iron binding proteins, and the fungal cells happily receive this iron and starts growing rapidly. In case of compromised immunity, immune cells such as macrophages and circulating neutrophils would not be well formed and also deficient in number, which also allow proliferation of the fungus. Finally, the fungus adhere and damage to the endothelial cells and invade the blood vessel, which creates clots in blood vessels called thrombosis and subsequent tissue death called necrosis. Once inside the blood vessels, the fungus can disseminate or spread the infection to other areas of the body. Clotting of blood inside vessels and tissue death leads to the dark color formations in the skin and around nasal bridges, which is why the disease is called black fungus. Black fungus affects the body generally in 5 different ways. Rhinocerebral mucormycosis affects the sinuses and brain. The symptoms include sinusitis, bulging and swelling under the eyelids, facial pain and numbness, redness in eye, blurry vision, soft tissue swelling, bulging of eyes, vision loss, and severe necrotic lesions. A bloody discharge from the nose can be taken as one of the first signs that the fungus invaded the brain. Clotting in the brain and severe brain tissue damage become fatal to the infected person. Lungs are affected in the case of pulmonary mucormycosis. Symptoms include shortness of breath, cough, chest pain, and fever, large spaces inside the lungs called pulmonary cavitation, and coughing blood. Gastrointestinal mucormycosis affects the digestive system. Symptoms include abdominal pain and distension associated with nausea and vomiting, and sometimes massive gastric bleeding. It also affects the liver in the case of hepatic mucormycosis. In case of cutaneous mucormycosis, skin is affected. Spores falling in ruptured skin can cause the infection. The infection spread into the adjacent fat, muscle, fascia, and even bone. And finally, in disseminated mucormycosis, the infection spread to different parts of the body through the blood vessels. Now, in these times of pandemic, where news channels and media looking for sensational news, it appears that more colors of fungal infections are emerging, like white or yellow fungus. What is the truth behind these new infections? Are they really new? Are they any deadlier than mucormycosis? The white fungus, which appeared in news, is another common fungal infection called Candidiasis or yeast infection, caused by the fungus Candida albicans. This fungus is a normal resident of human body. Candidiasis generally affects skin, throat, tongue, and genital areas. The characteristic white slimy colonies in tongue and throat gave the name white fungus. A kind of Candidiasis called invasive Candidiasis have a mortality rate up to 14% in some studies. It is an infection well treated by existing medications and not as deadly as mucormycosis. More recently, a doctor from Ghaziabad in Uttar Pradesh, India, reported that one of his patients was infected with multiple fungi. There were infections of mucormycosis, Candidiasis, and also another fungal species, Mucormycosis, which is a slime. This fungus is also popularly known as the dog vomit slime due to its peculiar yellow slimy colonies. It is reported to cause asthmatic and sinusitic infections in allergic individuals, but there is significant lack of data regarding fatality of its infection. Director of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Dr. Randeep Guleria, has warned against color-coding fungal infections, which makes it more confusing to diagnose and treat these infections. He added that this may create unnecessary panic among people, boosted by the media hype. These fungal spores are so ubiquitous in nature that it is impossible to prevent their inhalation. What we can do is to prevent ourselves from getting disease by adhering to COVID-appropriate behavior like wearing masks and observing social distancing and avoiding public gatherings. Even if someone infected, steroids should be used in case of life-threatening scenarios. These are the only ways to stop the spread of all these diseases. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more informative videos like this.